Welcome to Next Economy Now. The goal of this podcast series is to highlight the leaders who are taking a regenerative, bioregional, equitable, democratic, racially just, and whole systems approach to creating the new economy.
Hello, my name is Erin Axelrod, a partner and worker owner at Lift Economy, and I'm so pleased to be joined today by Martina and Daniella Preisler, who are both alumni of our Next Economy MBA program. So Martina is a community organizer and bilingual English and Spanish facilitator of Mexican origin. She currently resides in Philadelphia, where she has taken root with her little family of radicants. She is a founding worker-owner member of Colmenar Cooperative Consulting, and she worked at the U.S. Federation of Worker Cooperatives as the membership director for 5 years. Ana Martina has an in-depth understanding of the landscape of workplace democracy across the U.S., and is dedicated to promoting and advising others around best practices for democratic governance and organizational accountability. And as part of her work with the Worker Co-op Federation, she coordinated the Council for Movimiento para Inmigrantes en Cooperativas, the immigrant movement in cooperatives, and co-facilitated the Racial and Economic Justice Council. From 2018 to 2022, served on the board of CICOPA Americas, the International Organization of Cooperatives in Industry and Services. And Daniella Preisler is Chilean and a mother of an incredible 20-year-old who has taught her the best lessons about self-love, respect, kindness, compassion, and resilience. In 2012, her daughter and her moved from Chile to San Francisco, California, where for 7 years she was a worker owner in charge of the administration and finance of the ecological house cleaning cooperative Home Green Home in San Francisco. And during 2017, she completed her cooperative development fellowship with Prospera. She has collaborated with other organizations, co-facilitating workshops and providing technical assistance in Spanish with SELC, the Sustainable Economies Law Center, and Prospera, facilitating legal cafes in Spanish with the U.S. Federation of Worker Co-ops in Concilio de Inmigrantes Cooperativistas and the International Committee, and with the Democracy at Work Institute, DAWI, in Immigrant Cooperatives Collaborative, among others. She served on the board of the U.S. Federation of Worker Co-ops for 4 years, and in 2020, she launched her cooperative with 2 other Latina colleagues, Colmenar Cooperative Consulting, which is inspired to help fill the void in the Latinx community to access training and technical assistance to formalize and develop their worker co-ops, where currently she works. Welcome, Ana Martina and Danny, to the show. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you, Erin. So excited to be here with you today and my colleague.
Thank you, Erin. Yeah, we're very excited to be sharing the space. So yeah, thank you for inviting us.
We'd love to start with you sharing for our listeners the story of Colmenar. How did it start? And hearing from both of you the origin story.
Basically, when I was at this cooperative in San Francisco, Home Green Home, I realized all the barriers for the community, for the Spanish speaker community, and I also started thinking, when I started, I didn't know much about worker cooperatives. Like in my countries, I've heard of production cooperatives but not this type of cooperative. So I started searching everywhere and started thinking, okay, attending conferences. I went to the first Western conference here in Berkeley, and then all these workshops, and I was like, oh my God, there's so much, but no, there was nothing in Spanish. So I started realizing, okay, so I have some privileges and I want to use them as a bridge for the community. So I started thinking about this, and then I was helped with Prospera offer me this fellowship, and I did my certification of community coach, and then I started, okay, so now getting skills, right, to be able to to give this, and I started thinking about that, and then I met Mayerlin. She also was a fellow of Prospera, and we started thinking, at cafes, and started thinking about what this would look like. I started working as a consultant for Prospera Silk with the legal cafes and providing consulting for Spanish speaker cooperatives, and then we started thinking, okay, so this could be something that we could provide and have our own cooperative as well, and start this cooperative. So that was 2019. And then, so I decided to leave the cooperative. So at the end of 2019, we said, oh, we need another voice. And I had already this relationship with Ana Martina, that we were part of I was working very closely with her, with us in the same council that you mentioned, and the federation also. So, and we had built this way of working together, and it was like, okay, and she was like very excited also. And so we started, okay, we will build this, right? We've been working with the community for a while, and we come from there. We're also immigrants, and that happened. And then I left the cooperative in February, and then March came the pandemia. So it was nothing happens without a reason, I think, right? So it gave us the time, I think, to continue with the project, and we launched we actually registered the business in June, but then we actually launched officially last year. I'll pass the mic to Ana.
When we start our meetings before the pandemic, we were imagining, our work, it was going to be 1 year to form the business, to get ready. And then I think because our organizing started before and it really developed throughout the pandemic, I think that the whole vision and focus really was impacted by, right? So a lot of the work that we do, it's focusing not just on the formation of worker cooperatives, but really we started really thinking and imagining what is the other ways and how we could be creating models for sustainability in a long term. And I think that that's part of also the whole intention to include care in the work that we're doing for the sustainability, not just the structure that is important, but specifically attending to the sustainability for every single person that is involved in these democratic workplaces.
I'd love to hear from each of you, what are you most excited about? And maybe even if there are projects you're working on that you could share that you're excited about. Dani, you want to go first?
Mm-hmm. Well, last year, Ana Martina pushed us she started, oh, this is grand, I'm going to write. So she started doing that, right? And I think a financial guide would be awesome. And we were talking about this already. How can we provide resources, right? Accessible resources together with being sustainable ourselves. So I think that happened, and we started thinking about it. We got the grant, and so with the spirit of this guide is sharing the learning, right? Everything that we've learned through our experience in cooperatives or in the movement, even from the MBA, because that was also part of my pandemic experience, which I was so grateful because you were like a support in that moment for those times. So this happened. We wrote this guide last year, and we did the launching this year. So it just came out in March for everyone, and it's the intention is to simplify, not be the financial, associating it with your regular life, that you are part of the economics anyway. So it's putting that together so that people don't have this anxiety about when you talk about financial matters. So it was that, providing resources, helping with that anxiety as well. I think believing that the relationship with money comes in as well. The trauma comes in as well when we talk about financial matters. So I think it's very intentional, this guide. We thought about, this they can use. They can have it there. If they don't remember, they can go back and that's it. If they can print it. So I think that just happened, and I think we achieved the goal of providing a resource, accessible resource for the community.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we started, of course, navigating our own formation. But because, as I was mentioning, there was so much change that was happening on our lives through the pandemic, right? A lot of people in the movements, a lot of people in the spaces, and all these webinars and all these virtual spaces that were happening. I think that the conversation was very obvious, right? The way and how our lives were happening with this constant idea of extraction were not working, right? Like we were really like pushed to our limits. And I think that we start observing how so many more people were trying to find different ways to organize for their economical survival. So many people that lost their jobs. So the work cooperative model, it was already the movement in the States was really having a big moment of growth. And I think the pandemic really kind of like brought the model into a point of answers for a lot of people. And I think that right now we are in a very interesting moment where we have seen the growth of cooperatives. Even in the last 5-6 years, the number of cooperatives have really increased in the States. More communities are really gravitating towards this model as a way for sustainability. And we also start seeing also how this model is being as a resource, as a model for other organizations. They're not necessarily formed as a worker cooperative. So it's been interesting also seeing how nonprofits are trying to even change their structure to be more inclusive, to be more democratic. So I think this is very exciting to me, because it can really change the way and how we relate to each other in workplaces in a way that is, as I was saying at the beginning, more sustainable and inclusive of the idea of care for individuals and people, not just looking at us as human resources, So I think that's a big possibility of change. So that is very exciting to me.
I'm so grateful to know about this financial guide in Spanish because it really is an incredible asset to the movement and extremely important to have that language justice. And so thank you. That's really, really exciting. I have to sneak in a question about colmenar because I think the name has something to do with bees, but could you share a little bit for our listeners around the selection of the name and what it means to you?
Yeah, I can share a little bit. When I joined the conversation about forming the cooperative, we really went through a variety of names and really thinking, discussing, and this is like the creative moment of really putting that vision together. And for us, we were already part of this ecosystem of worker cooperatives. We were already in so much participation through work, but also volunteering and in community with so many people. And so we see ourselves as contributors to this ecosystem, but we didn't really want it just to like be focusing on the, individuals as like bees. We see these formations of colmenar, which is apiary in English, as a really different communities. They're doing their work, right? So we see ourselves embedded in that community. We don't see ourselves as individuals, or in alienation. We see ourselves working together. So I think that the idea of being colmenar is part of that, right? It's sort of like an indication that we want to be continuing in this collaborative way in the ecosystem.
I love that so much. Yeah, this hive mind, which brings me to my next question. Both of you are so steeped in this movement, this solidarity economy, next economy. So I'd love to hear you speak just about the movement and particular initiatives that you're a part of, either inside Colmenad or outside, that you're working on, that you feel passionate about, that is helping to grow this next economy movement, bring more people in, help them see the possibilities for transformation, and really do that deep systems transformation.
Yeah, I could start with, I think that when I joined the U.S. Federation, my thinking was, what am I bringing to this table, right? Should I be here? Because I was coming from a couple of years of this transformation into business as usual, into working cooperatives. It wasn't this curve. But because I felt so connected, like when I had the interview and where the worker owners were the ones that interviewed me for becoming part of the cooperative, I was like, yes, they're making decisions. They're part of it. This is the way it should be. So moved by my passion, but then in a transition of learning, right? And then I got to this board and I said, and then I realized or I learned the importance to also be part of those discussions, be bringing the experience, in my case as an immigrant, as a Spanish speaker, working with people that have more barriers than me. So that was important. And we started join the International Council. And that brought us to CICOPA, the one that you mentioned. CICOPA is this organization that guides the work of the worker cooperatives, right? And so we joined CICOPA Americas, and we were working together, sharing this this space with Ana Martina. And then this year, we decided very intentionally to continue this work because we are the only ones that were part of it in this committee, that now committee, international committee. And so we wanted to continue this, not to leave it, right? So and bring this, we're worker owners because we both left the other organizations that we were working. We're worker owners right now. We're living, walking the talk, and we can bring stuff important experience to this type of tables that normally they talk from very bureaucratic way or very academic also, right? And so I think that being continuing this work with the international has also because we're thinking also how do we connect this movement not only within the US but abroad, and make it more voices, make it stronger, and also with Cicopa North America. Also, I'm part of that board with Canada, so that we can also interact more. That we've done it in the last year. We had these workshops together, inviting each other. I was part of their national conference. I was invited. So I think we make it strong, these relationships within the ecosystem, not only the US, but also abroad.
Yeah, I think that, what Daniela was mentioning, the work with the international community is very important to us. We've been already organizing in those spaces. During the pandemic, we were in conversations with folks. At the time when I still was working at the U.S. Federation of Worker Cooperatives, we connected right away with folks. We hosted a webinar with folks that were in Spain, in Italy, in Argentina, in Chile. I don't remember if folks from Mexico were at that time, but also the folks in New York City. And so these were being spaces where being trying to learn from each other, support from each other. And in this moment, when the pandemic hit, it was a moment for learning of the processes of mutual aid that were happening in different countries. And this is an intention that we still have to be continuing bringing these connections from the international community to the folks that are part of the immigrant community here in the States. So specifically, some of the initiatives that we've been working on in the last couple months, year probably, we've been working really closely with organizations that are incubating cooperatives of immigrants. So we just we designed a curriculum for basically sort of like a co-op academy for Spanish speakers for an organization that is based in California called Prospera. We designed that curriculum to help folks. It's a curriculum that is designed from the perspective that we live in, right? As immigrant worker mothers navigating the system, So it is a curriculum that has a lot of passion, a lot of care and love. And this, I think, it is one of the initiatives that we've been working in collaboration with other organizations. So it's very exciting that all of this work is happening and that we've been having the opportunity to share our experiences with other folks. They're just starting, right? So as Daniela was saying, passing a little bit of that experience, being the bridge in our communities that we also needed when we came in the first place to this country.
That's a perfect lead into my next question, which is around the struggles you're facing. You know, what are the top 3 things that keep you up at night that are shared by some of the constituents you work with? I would love to hear just a little bit of your analysis of some of the really challenging things.
Yeah, I could start. Only 3, right? No, I think that for me, what moves me, this question that, a lot of people ask you when you start, and yeah, well, you're not so sure, but for me, I think it's economic justice. It's what, and everything that involves, a more feminist economy, a more inclusive economy, everyone access to education and resources, right? So I think that what keeps me up at night is, listening to all these podcasts, this independent news and all that. It's trying to figure out how are we going to do this, this transformation? How are we going to, I hear a lot about, capitalist economy falling, and still we're eating the world, right? And we're living, what kind of world are we leaving to next generations? So how this next economy is going to come in? How can we make this knots work together, right? Connected as a commoner, as many hives together, beehives together. So I think that keeps me, I think that's the main one that some days keep me up at night thinking about education. Some days keep me an eye on environment. Some days, and I always reach into you. I know I want to be more care of my soil that I have here, that make it useful also for the soil and for the rest of the people that we live together here. And there's no time, and it's always like we're doing, and there's like time is leaving us. It's like it's never enough time to do it. So I think that keeps me, like, the time. Do we have enough time? I think we're there already in the, how do you say, the decline fall, right? And how is it a reset button? But then I think, are we going to learn from our mistakes if we just start again and be able not to go and fall in the same pattern or in the same path, right? Is it a social revolution, a worldwide social revolution, like people raising their voices, understanding the power that we have as a mass? And I think, well, those kind of news, like, give me hope when I look at that. And or is it this natural? Because for me, the best version of the human being, or each human, is not isolated or individual. For me, we're naturally communal people. I think our best version of us is in community. So I think that we are, we're doing, a lot of people are doing stuff like, how can we put all that together and show it, it works, because people we've been imposed an individual thinking and a way of relating to each other. If I could connect all that, that's what wakes me up at night.
How about you?
Oh, keeps me.
Yeah. How about you, Ana Martina?
I mean, I think that when I think about this question, I've been really involved in the solidarity economy since I was in Mexico, organizing, supporting Zapatista movements, when I was part of the indie media movement, documenting struggles, working as an organizer, volunteer, not like paid work, right? But like doing my part to support communities, to use radio as a tool to talk about the struggles that they were living. And back then, the majority of the work that I was doing with communities was these communities were receiving the impact of free trade agreements. And forward, a few years, like now where I'm in this country, I found myself in this country. And I think that the work that I'm doing is with those communities, right? Like I've been organizing in collective spaces for a really long time. All the work that I've been doing, I think it has been very connected with solidarity economy in that way, trying to build different, that what we call another world is possible, right? And I believe that is possible. all of these work on solidarity economy, it started back then, right? Like very connected to Zapatista struggles, indigenous people really raising their voices, telling us, what you're all doing is not working for us, is exploitation, is colonialism still, So I think that those I think that is what still wakes me up in the middle of the night, like thinking, okay, we're here. How do we do it, right? How do we make sure that if we're building different systems, if we're building worker cooperatives, that those folks, they need to be on the table, right? Those folks, they need to be really receiving the support, the resources are truly receiving them, right? These resources are accessible to them. So, and when I say, that it's including us too, right? Like the reason why we form a worker cooperative and no another nonprofit is because we understand the challenges of our communities when there is not the right for employment in this country, right? And worker cooperatives really offer an alternative to our communities, right? So we move with the words of inclusion really present in that way. And this is the kind of model that we have found to walk that inclusion, right? So I think that's something that it is very present to me. How do we continue building to create this idea of collective futures, right? Where all of those communities that I've been working for like more than 20 years, and many of them are in this country today, that we can really find that collective future, and the people are really like being able to find ways for their own sustainability.
So what is next for you both, and how do listeners support your work? Dani, kick us off.
Well, in terms of Colmenar, I would say our next vision is to do an educational program, a financial educational program using this guide, like a series of webinars to help them walk through, take advantage of everything that the guide can provide in terms of practicing, having like work sessions, or I don't know, a way. We're trying to look for financing for that. So we want to make it accessible as well, and be able to provide this, like webinars with using this guide together, right? So that it can, because I was thinking about what Ana Martina was saying. I say, okay, so how do you heal all this lack of access, right, to a formal education? And how do you repair that? How do you go back? How do you repair people that weren't able to access all this education? Now they're 50, they're 60, right? And they're trying to have a dignified work, a good space environment, and they want to make decisions for the business, and they feel unable to do it because they lack of this formal education. See? So I think that using that guide, I don't know, we will not repair, right? But putting something towards that, like a seed towards that, for them to, a budget, how to use a budget. You do it every day, right? The fancy word budget is one thing, but what do you do? Like when you have those envelopes and you put, okay, this is for education of my daughter, this is for, when you do that, that's budgeting, right? So that way, so I think that's what's next. So we want to really put in also a lot of passion, intention, and love there to provide that.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that when we created this guide for financial education for worker cooperatives, for LLC worker cooperatives, we created the guide in Spanish, thinking specifically that there are not too many resources in Spanish. And it was a surprise that a lot of people have been reaching out to us, asking us to have these resources in English. So one of the things that we're working right now is to secure funding to have the research being translated and the design again. And we also are looking for the creation, so like working towards securing funding for creation of more resources that can be helpful to our worker communities. Like we do know a lot about the challenges in worker cooperatives, working together, learning to take decisions together. So there's a lot of conflict that happens many times in our spaces. And we need to learn how to navigate conflict, how to hold conflict together without falling apart. So that's the other part that we are working on in this year and trying to secure funding to create resources to support worker cooperatives and democratic workplaces to have resources to just like navigate our own conflicts when we're working in this kind of democratic workplaces. I think that and continue the creation of collaborations within other members in the solidarity economy, that's definitely something that we're looking for. So it's great to be on the podcast because these are the kind of relationships that we want to be continuing growing, from this relationship of both Daniela and me being alumni from the MBA of Next Economy. That's what I mean, right? Like continuing these relationships.
Well, we at Lift Economy are so grateful that Colmenar exists. We definitely see the important kind of sweet spot you're filling in this ecosystem. And I'm curious if there's anything you'd like to leave our listeners with as we wrap our conversation, last thoughts or things for them to think about as they go about their work in transforming our economic systems.
I would say that I think the three of us has been a whole experience of learning. Like when we say really walking the talk. Like when we tried to access capital, there was a whole thing. There was an issue with the green card, so we were denied. So, and there was a lot of paper that we thought we don't understand this, that we don't have that barrier. Like how this is possible for a lot of people filling out all these applications and all these reports, financial reports. How do you get there to make it accessible? I think that we've been learning a lot from that, and also our times, like the care for our own kids, right? And showing up here in every meeting every day. It is a struggle right now because we're also, and this is what I want to leave, is like we are not in the right environment. We're trying to build this in a different environment that works towards like the other way, right? So when they say we're salmons here, we are. And those struggles are part of that because we could say, take the day, or we want to do that. And then how can we keep the business going to be sustainable, to provide us this stable work, right? Dignified and all that. And you said, yeah, and then you run out of, you can access capital. You want to do this guide, and it's taking time of your work as well, right? And so you're not maybe bringing more clients as we should, but this is so important for us as well. So I think that we are we're not in the right economy doing this. We're trying to go to the other side. So it's going to be hard, but I think that we stay connected. Think about this is an ecosystem. This is not we doing this by ourselves. So I think that approach the organizations are part of the ecosystem. You, Lift Economy, the U.S. Federation, and many others around in different ecosystems that are around the United States, wherever you are, right? Because this is something that we can only achieve together, not if we do it by ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think so much of like how much being part of a worker cooperative, once again, like having these constant conversations, negotiations in our community, learning and unlearning so much, right? In the space when we're working together it really leads to a really big change in the life of folks like us. They are part of cooperatives, right? Like it really creates a change and impact in our relationships and the way and how we collaborate in our communities, and how we are building relationships. So I think that we cannot explain how much this means, right? Because once again, the tools that we're learning here when we are working in the cooperative to navigate conflict, for example, as I was mentioning before, it's learning and unlearning these tools, right, of communication, of unlearning the harm that we have gone through in all this trauma, that is around us. And when we start really working together, using the tools, it is really been transforming our lives too, right? So I think that that's something that I do believe as worker cooperatives and working together and how can be this like ripple effect, right? That can help us to transform the way in how we relate to each other. And the world that I imagine, this collective futures, right? To me, it means not just like sharing work, but also housing cooperatives, sharing living space, like farms, like really imagining all these different systems where we are really collaborating among each other, right? And so where we can really then start seeing how this is possible. So yeah, I just think that it is a really interesting and exciting model. And so it's sort of like an invitation for people that don't know much about cooperatives to get curious and try to look around and look in your community what cooperatives and other ways of mutual aid and solidarity economy exist around your community, and go and meet them and talk to them.
So appreciate what you've been able to share with our listeners today and the guide you've put out. I'm so grateful to know it exists, and we would love to share it out and spread the word however we can. And yeah, please stay in touch, and thank you so much for this time today.
Thank you so much. I just would add a little bit. I was very appreciative of this opportunity that we had here in Lift Economy with the MBA. Something that we just wanted to mention. This had been a really good. The resources that we got, especially the organizational chart, it's been a whole learning, like using it and stuff. But it is what we need, like for these structures to happen, because we can work so many hours structuring our business because we need to bring in clients. It has been because you are so connected with all our values that it's been so easy to work with. So I think that, and this is connecting, right? So this is also part of what we're saying. It's connecting with people that are already here. We don't want to invent like we said all the time, right? We don't need to invent the wheel again. It's like sharing, connecting, creating these collaborations. And we're very also happy to have you in that space and to consider ourselves your friends, your colleagues, and collaborators with you.
I love that. And just to build as well, in our conversation today, I heard this tension around how do you balance consulting with one organization with the work it takes to build tools to respond to the needs of many, many people, like the guide. And, we've had that tension as well at Lift Economy. And so knowing that this 1 or 2 templates from the MBA is being used and evolved by your collective and the folks you're working with, that is just music to my ears. And it's absolutely the type of sharing of resources that I think is modeled in the idea of the Colmenar, and just we need so much more of that. So thank you for modeling it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the work you do. Thank you for inviting us.
Next Economy Now is a production of Lift Economy. To listen to all of our episodes, go to lifteconomy.com/podcast. That's LIFT economy.com/podcast. You can also sign up for our monthly newsletter at lifteconomy.com/newsletter. Please also rate and review our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Before you go, we wanted to let you know that our spring cohort of the Next Economy MBA begins on March 26th. If you're an entrepreneur seeking to create a business that works for all life, a member of a team looking to transition your organization into one that is more regenerative and democratic, or someone who's considering a career or livelihood transition and embodiment with your values, we designed this course for you. Over this 9-month learning journey, you'll have the chance to learn practical skills around business and life design based on our work with over 250 social enterprises. In addition to live sessions, you can deepen your experience and practice with special sessions, affinity groups, and connections with over 500 alumni who have participated in the course. Interested in learning more? Visit lifteconomy.com/MBA to view our course curriculum and sign up for a free intro with one of our facilitators. If you're ready to sign up, you can use the code PODCASTMBA to save 10% on tuition. We hope you'll join us.